basically from our little pre-production, I thought that the dining room had some nice angles and everything, and now we're starting to get in some nice light coming into the windows. As you can see here, coming onto the floor and across the table, which gives the room a nice little shape. I'm going to do an extra little bounce flash in here to just bring up the level just a little bit. And I thought that basically to show the ceiling and the angles that it has, along with the interesting recessed lighting, that we would basically do a vertical on this as opposed to horizontal to kind of give it a little nicer look. We're going to do a little bit of bounce out of the corner just to bring the ambient up just a little bit of fill light in here, so that basically that it's not too much of a range to basically layer it and take these very hot spots here and what would be pretty dark down below. So by adding just a little bit of fill, it'll bring the ambient up and help it as far as the balance is concerned. Now, I want to talk about this a little bit too, that there's some other techniques that you can use with this, and now as the first shot that we did, when we get done with that, we'll probably warm that up slightly because it looked a little cool. But here, another thing you could do too, if you don't have lights or powerful lights or things that you could use like that, another technique that is used quite frequently in the movie business are actually gelling the windows. Now, these particular windows are fairly small, so they would be easy to gel, and the gels are fairly inexpensive. You can get them in long rolls. Roscoe and various people carry them. Matter of fact, I'm going to go get one and come right back and show you a little bit what I mean. Like I said, this is a technique that's used a lot with the film guys because they don't have to try to ratio something so drastically. This particular gel is just a dark blue, and what I would recommend from a standpoint of shooting is they have what are called ND gels, which are neutral density gels, which are very similar to an ND filter that you would put on your camera. An ND3 is 1 stop, ND6 is 2, 9 is 3, that type of thing. So with this type of thing, you could literally put an ND6 or maybe an ND9 in that window, and it would balance with this ambient light. Now, this particular gel is blue, and you can see how much it knocks down the light when you bring it up there to the window. But a neutral density would not have any colors, so you would have like a neutral light. What you can do in addition to this is you can actually play tricks with the light, and you can get an ND CTO, which is basically like a warming neutral density filter, which has a warming gel in it. So what this would do for you in shooting is that your light in the room here is a tungsten light. It's a warm 3200 degree light. So by adding an ND amber gel, or a CTO, a full CTO or a double CTO gel to your windows, you've now balanced this blue daylight to your ambient light inside. And by doing that, you would obviously put this on the outside of the window so that you can't see it. And by doing that, you could literally take this room with no lights and use just gels on the windows and balance it so these lights, your ambient lights, are actually the brightest source. And a lot of these are on dimmers, so you can actually control those as well. So that's just a technique if by chance you're going on location and you can't take lights, or you don't have a big lighting package or anything like that. Gels are an interesting way to basically fool your light source and control your main source coming into your room, so that basically you can shoot and it looks like you lit it, when in fact all you did was just control the window light by neutral density. Okay, so I can see as we're starting, I've got my mask on here to basically show the highlights. So I can see that our fill is a little much, so I'm going to change this source as opposed to just a direct head, if you will, that'll be bouncing out of the corner. I'm going to put a soft box on it, like a soft box that you would do a portrait with. I'm going to hide that in the doorway over here so that the light doesn't hit the ceiling, and it's just enough for the table in this dark area here. One tip about doing architectural photography that a lot of people don't think of it that way is think of it as just like lighting a portrait. Your exterior would be the same way, any way that you would do it. If you're lighting your exterior, it's a nice 3/4 soft light from the side. Same as you would do a portrait. Just think of your interior as approaching it like doing a nice portrait of somebody. Now the softbox, obviously, just like if you were doing a portrait or anything else, basically really diffuses the light and makes it a very soft source. The techniques that we were using earlier was we were bouncing it off the ceiling a little bit or off of a wall, but this will make it very, very soft, as you can see by the source coming out of it now. Plus, it's a little more directional with the backlight. Although the backlights do have a tendency to soak up your light a little bit, so it's good to kind of bump your power up just a little bit for your shots. All right, so now we'll try our next shot, see where we're at. That looks much better. So our ceiling still looks a little hot, so we'll bring that light down just a little bit. Another little technique that we do too, if you really need the light to rake in, is I carry little pieces of black cloth and things like that, where I just basically put that over the top of the light box, and it works like a baffle or a card, as if you were trying to trim the light just like if you were doing a portrait. So for this particular thing, I'm going to use a little black wrap, which is the black aluminum, or you can use cloth or whatever. I got my little utility thing here with all kinds of clips and clamps and things to kind of put it on the backlight. Basically, this will knock down the top light that was kind of hitting the roof just a little bit. It's, in the film world, they call this a topper. Remember, it's not the amount of light, it's the ratio that it's applied. Want to take a look? This is what we have now, and this is what we had before. As you can see, just that little bit of adjustment brought it back into a really nice range. What I normally have a habit of doing is after I have I got rid of the test, if you will, I like to dump the card and start clean so they don't get mixed in with your actual captures that you're going to be using for layering. So I just go in and format the card and clean them off and start with a clean card when I'm getting ready to shoot. If I'm shooting not tethered, we're shooting remote tethered now, as you mentioned earlier. All right, so now that we have the dining area, here's our final shot on the dining area. But I'm going to go through here now and take some of these layers off so you can kind of take a look. Here's a curve, if you can see right down here in the floor. It was a little dark, so by adding the curve, we put a little highlight down in here to give us just a little detail down in here. Here again too, here's our windows. You can see right up here the windows. We'll take those down with one of the exposures that we have, the darker exposures. Here's just some highlight areas that we basically have taken down. If you see the highlights on the seats here, as well as on the table, we basically, with our darker exposure, have basically put some detail back in those areas as well. And there again too, depending on how clean you may want it, and you know, we may go in and crop this and get rid of some of that roof, but I just wanted to show you the whole shot as what we have here now. You know, from a standpoint of your actual final image, you know, this may be what your final image would be. So you don't really need all of this. It's just that we use the wide angle lens to basically give us the width and the depth that we needed. Here's some other areas, as you can see, where we've kind of lightened. So that just gives you an idea there again too of the layering, and basically doing this had no lighting. We basically just lit this with natural light, and just with the layering, the pleasing shot that we got out of it.